Oh,
I
it's been a couple of weeks and we are sorry about that. We've been overtaken by the holiday season. So we'd like to say post Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
And we
Happy
just,
Merry Christmas. Here's our star of the show.
yeah, here's
The
a
little
baby and
boy.
he smells that I just had a piece of candy.
So yeah, talking about my drinking and it's kind of a good time to kind of continue obviously with some of the stuff because the holidays are here, so it's tough to kind of cope with that sometime when you're kind of used to it and everyone's celebrating. It is a challenging time. It can be tough for people. For me, it wasn't so much tough to not drink or drink. That wasn't the big kicker for me. That it was like fitting in. How do you be around everybody that's doing the norm, that's having their Tom and Jerry's and their holiday drinks and being festive after being sober? So that's always kind of a tough time to kind of fit that jolly spirit in, but it really isn't. It really is not. It's just a little bit of getting used to, I think. I think it's more about adapting to it and seeing it for what it is. It's actually more enjoyable because you're actually taking in what's really happening instead of just getting all buzzed up. And for someone like me that had a problem drinker, it wasn't just the buzz, you won't be drunk. So
Well, and the other thing I think that might be helpful for that now is the explosion of mocktails. So, I mean, he can have
yeah.
Tom and Jerry is a big family drink for us. We've had it ever since we were little, and you can just scoop the mix in there and just not add the brandy, you know? So,
Yeah.
and then the mocktails now, lots of restaurants and places also have their own menus.
Yeah, there's a
And
lot more
they're,
of a selection for that, it seems now, which is pretty cool. But that's an interesting point because when you get to a certain spot, I think that's a little bit down the road sometimes when you know you're gonna have a fake drink because that's kind of teeter-tottering with some people that just have that habit too and stuff. But when you do get down that road, there are options. So you think once you can kind of position yourself to the point where you know that you're fighting alcoholism, you're taking it head on,
conquering it.
conquering it, and daily working on it, you get to a point where that's not the issue. And you might want one just because it's kind of fun and it's fitting for a scenario for the mocktails or something like that. But there are plenty of those options out there, so that kind of fills that void too when you don't think you fit in the
Yeah.
situation. So that does help.
Can you talk a little bit about one of the things that I, as someone who's supporting someone in recovery, I was going to talk about how you were adamant about even near
Sure.
beer, not even the 0.5.
I think that also fits it because that's where I was saying once you get to that point, then the mocktail is a good fun thing that be included, all that kind of stuff where I feel the need. But yes, there was that issue that you had to get to that point because I was very weird about it. So I think it's a good time.
When we would to a bar or restaurant, but if we just sat at the bar and he got a Coke and it came in the big red glass Coke, he would have me taste it just in case because people are busy at the bar. And he was very adamant about that. After I divorced him, to help him, mind you, we are still married in our hearts. But it was like you have to get help or we can't live together. Just one day it was time. Well, he made a statement and I followed it, but he moved out of here and we got him a place not far from here and he wasn't working at that time, which so talk about those 3 months before you ended up at your anniversary, how you ended up. Just kind of like your mindset, you knew that you had to do something, but by then your body was shutting down.
my drinking became, obviously, she touched on this, a problem with the relationship, a problem with working, um, a problem with my health, just, trying to stay alive. And it happened rapidly, and all these things happen really fast. But yeah, so I mean, these kind of happen, all these scenarios happen fast, kind of blurry. I was in a downward spiral and stuff like that. So it led me to going to the hospital because I had been drinking and was alone and I was having a hard time and all that kind of stuff. And what happened was I started getting a stomach ache and I really just thought I had to go to the bathroom. And that wasn't it. And I was just like, I just can't shake this. And it was summertime, or not summer, but it was fall because it was October. But it was nice outside. So it wasn't like, and nobody was like sickly around or any of that stuff. And so I felt okay that way, but I felt something was really off. And I tried to go sit down and I got up and I thought I was going to throw up. And that's when in the dark, just spewed. And it was blood. And I could tell it in the dark because it's just, you knew it. I mean, I was so out of my mind anyway. I was drinking all day. I mean, I was always drinking. But what happened is that had happened. And I knew that that was bad news. Not exactly sure what it meant and I knew, I
Well,
was drinking,
throw up blood. It can't be something good.
never heard a story of it being good.
Yeah.
But I did that and, I called 911 and they're, telling you the story, like, keep your door open, they're on their way, hide your pets on stuff, sit down and wait. Well, me, I got up, grabbed my smokes, locked the door, went up front, was having a smoke, waiting for them. And they got out of the ambulance, came up. The guy gets out, he's like, "What in the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just waiting for you guys, you know? You are not, this is bad." And it's kind of blurry to me at this point, like what they're saying. And I get in the ambulance, and this guy, I remember he was just transferred up from New Orleans. And I remember that because
We have a love for New Orleans in many ways.
and so the guy was saying it, and I was kind of telling him, and he was like, "You're in a really dangerous spot." And he was like, "You're not good. You could die." And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" You know? And then he was saying, "You have it's like the CDs, it's your veins in your throat." And all of a sudden, he said, and that's what it was, the veins in your throat and the fill it, stomach, and everything's shutting down and breaking down. And that's when I got into the hospital in the emergency, and I was pretty much out of it at that point. I don't even really remember what the next couple of steps were. I mean, I remember getting in and just kind of being like in ICU, but I was so out of it at that time. Like I thought I was there for like months on end. And I remember talking to Jen. I remember talking to my brother and being like, "Yeah, yeah, man, they won't even feed me or something. Like I've been here for like
No,
weeks." I remember this is in my head, so she's gonna tell me her
I'll
side of
tell
the
you
story.
what's
But
going on in reality, but so this is going, just to reiterate, this is how he's
yeah, I was gonna finish.
understanding
Yeah,
and comprehending
I was
what's
gonna finish.
happening.
So I was talking like, "Oh, I've been here for weeks, and whatever." And I can remember talking to Jen about it, and I can remember talking to my brother about it, and it never made any sense to them. And then whatever the response were, like, "What are you talking about?" It never. So it's like I knew something was up, but I didn't know what was up. I didn't know. I really didn't understand what was going on. I was sick from drinking, and I'd been in the hospital for a really long time and I wasn't being treated very well or something because I was agitated. But those were my three like main things. Like I knew I was there, didn't really understand where I was or like how long I had been there. And this was all in what first day probably.
Yeah,
And then now you can tell them like what you saw from the real reality side of it.
right.
So just to kind of confirm what you're saying, and then that's what my brain.
Yeah, so um after work that day, I went down there to the hospital, and I will on public podcast tell you how badly he was being treated. So he was right about that. So I went down there the first night and you were delirious. You were hardly conscious. You couldn't talk. They had you hooked up to shit. You were really bad and nobody was coming around. Can I get him some water, ice chips, something? And they're like, oh, there's a thing down the hall. I'm like, what are you guys doing? So anyway, I'm like, I want to see a doctor now. So I went in there like guns blazing because when I saw him, everything was filthy. Mind you, this is the same day he had just gone that morning. And I was already appalled. And so I didn't see any other family members or anything. And so I just comforted him, got him straightened out. I think they had you in, I don't know if it was a catheter at that point. I'm not sure. But I just cleaned him up and whatever. And the next day, so I'm gonna jump through this quick and you can stop me at any point. The next day, his sheets is anybody cleaning him? Get me some sheets. So I changed the sheet. Now, mind you, he really is not able to answer for himself. So they're asking him these questions. And I don't know if they're going off of his answers, but me being married to him, no, these are not accurate answers. And I think the next day I was like, I'm giving him a shower. If you're not going to clean him, I'm cleaning
I
him.
do remember that.
Yeah, because now they're giving him fluids and, he had IVs and shit. And I'm like, I'm a pro. Get him in a chair. I'm taking him in there. And I think you walked into the shower, but then I was like, change his sheets. I'm like, get him new gowns. I'm like, get him new pillowcases. Just sweat. Who knows? It was so appalling. But he was in such bad shape. And finally, by about the 5th day, they brought him some applesauce, and you were able to hold down, but they were very concerned about his throat.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the reason he wasn't eating, and they wouldn't let him drink even water. So it was the ice chips. And it took a combination of several employees for me to get the full picture of what was going on.
And mind you that during all of this, like, I don't recall having an issue with my throat as the reason. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
that is the reason, but in my state of mind, where I'm sitting, where I'm coming from, you know what I mean? I can't really tell you exactly what I thought, but it wasn't that. It was a delirious. It was like it was like it took a long time, but obviously
He was in there for
it
at
was
least 2 weeks, if not longer,
the
that
first
first time.
I had to go back.
Yes, he
But yeah, so I mean, even in that time frame, I mean, there are some things I know, but there's like the reasoning. So it's like even at that point, you're figuring out some of the things that like I wasn't even communicating necessarily. Like I'm not, I'm thirsty and they won't give me something or whatever, right? And then it's like that's what she would hear. It wouldn't make sense. She'd ask them. They wouldn't make sense. She'd have to get to the bottom by putting all the pieces together, and then that's how everything got turned around, like got cleaned up. I
But the
mean,
other thing, real quick, I just wanna go back to the condition the treatment he was getting and the condition that I found him every day when I'd go in there was appalling. And you know what it was? I finally got to the truth. I mean, I was not letting this shit lie. I'm like, I've been in hospitals my entire life, and I have never seen such disgusting conditions for a patient. And what it was is that he was in the ICU at St. Paul Regions, the county hospital, and they thought he was another drunk that was just coming in so they could save him, and then he'd get released and they'd see him next week or in a month or whatever. And I was horrified because
which I did see him in a month.
yeah, from treatment.
Yes.
But it's like, or you took an oath. You took an oath, and you have clearly people that love him and care for him are bathing him because you refuse. I mean, it was so traumatic from this position. I can't even imagine because they weren't telling him anything because they wouldn't tell us anything. It was so bad, you guys. And I'm sorry, I know, but to them I was. But it was so appalling. I have never in my life seen such horrific
All I know
treatment
is
of a patient.
I spent 3 weeks there one day
Yeah.
in my head.
But what ended up happening was as his mind started to clear and the alcohol was clearing from his body and he could start to understand what was happening, you were dead set. You could see it in his eyes that you were ready to get out of there. He was itching so badly to get out and go home.
At that point, I don't even know if it was. Let's put it this way. When I think about it now, then I didn't think go home, get another drink. But I also didn't think stop drinking, you need help. What I really wanted to do was get away from the situation and get out of the hospital. So I kind of wanted it just to go away. I mean, that's really the thing. So
Sense.
the fact of like, oh no, I got to get out of here. Going for a drink. No, I would have drank if I would have left. I mean, there's no doubt because I
That's what
didn't
you
have
do.
the help, right? Um, but so but that wasn't the thought process. The thought process is let me get out of this shit.
Well, this is what happened. So finally, the doctors came in and said he's healthy enough to be released. So it was like after 3 weeks, he is still not healthy, but he can't keep him. There's
They're like,
nothing
"Get
more
out."
we can do. Yeah,
Yeah.
get out. We'll see you next week.
I remember the doctor telling me you're only going to be able to drink a quart of water a day or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, he was
Weird
on
thing.
severe restriction.
And I was like, for what? For how long? And he's like, forever. So yes, that's what you're going to go. Yeah, you're going to be thirsty. But I don't know if he's messed with me or not. I was like, that is no good.
He was on fluid restriction for like 3 months, where he was only supposed to drink, and that eventually got better and it corrected itself, so they allowed that. But this was the kicker, though, and this is why I say he knew. And they came in and they said, and at this time, I think his brother Chris was there, or maybe Steve, I'm not sure. They came in and said to him, if you have another drink of any alcohol, of any amount, two things are going to happen. You're going to die slowly and painfully, or you're going to die quickly and painfully. But either way, you're going to die. He was 46, had cirrhosis of the liver already. Not only was he battling like the organs that were
Oh
needed.
yeah, so it's like, yeah, it did a number on. Well, so it does a lot of things. So it does work on your liver, which everyone knows, like, oh, my liver, you know, get that checked. You get cirrhosis, and now people think, oh, your liver can repair. Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. So if you get to the point where it's like mine's working good, I mean, it's doing its job, but there's damage, and it's there, and it's always going to be. It's never going on. It's not getting repaired. But liver damage, your kidneys take a hit, your entire nervous system gets whacked out, and your brain gets into a mush state. I don't know if it ever fully repairs itself or if it's just changed or whatever like that, but I mean, there are a lot of things that get affected of just doing that. And this is at 46 years old. Those
Did
are
a lot of damage to himself.
a lot of damage.
But when the doctor said that, I think that's what clicked after. Fast forward to our earlier conversation about absolutely none. So no 0.5 or 0.05 near beers.
But
He's going 0.
it,
But real quick, So when he said that, and he's like, "We've got a spot for you at the county treatment facility," because remember, at this point, he didn't have insurance. "So we've got you into the county treatment program, but you have to go today, like now." And he's like, "Nope, I'm gonna go home."
Well, I wanted to go home because that's your comfort zone. You wanna get out of the situation, wanna get away from it. I didn't want to deal with what I knew I inevitably had to do. I mean, I knew this is where it was going. I knew that I had a drinking problem. I knew things were terrible. I knew
He had already been through
I already
treatment
did
once
treatment once.
before.
I mean, I knew what the reality was, but at the time, I didn't wanna do it. I didn't want to face it. I wanted to take a break because I'm not thinking clearly, so I'm probably adding in things, right, that I'm thinking, "Oh, this is a great way I can probably do it. I can not do or whatever," right?
I
So
could
that's
just go
my
home for a
brain,
little
yeah.
bit,
Let me
maybe
go on
that's
for an
what it
hour,
is.
or something, and it's like, "No, you can't go home for an hour. You can't go home for a day and then decide." It's like, "No, you're talking about your life. Yes or no?" And my brain was still like, "This is how messed up it is." Like, a doctor is sitting there looking at me going, "Life or death. So you make a decision here." And my decision was kind of I get it, I understand it, but I wanna go home and think about it. Like, "No, dude." And then Jennifer and my brother and these people are looking at me like, "Dude, either you're going now or she can tell you the next."
Well,
She's
I
like,
just said to him, I said, "I love you. I cannot enable you any longer to kill yourself, slowly or quickly. Either way, I cannot do it. And so if you decide not to take this bed that they have for you at the treatment facility, I will say my goodbyes to you now." I was like, "Because I can't watch you I've been watching you kill yourself. I've been watching you."
everyone knew what it was gonna be at that point.
Well, and his brother basically said the same thing. I don't think, but
Everyone was saying the same thing. You're not gonna take this serious and do what you're supposed to. This is a gift.
yeah.
They're handing it to you, really. And if you're not looking at it the right way and you gotta think about it, you're then we're gonna make our decision right here because we're not waiting for you to get back here or that. And it's not out of meanness or anything else like that. But when it came down to it, though, and I knew it, and I was faced with it, and doctor says it, I mean, it's like it's rock bottom. I mean, you're gonna die. All your family walked away. You're in a hospital. I mean, you're at death's door. So what's the choice, right? Some people don't choose the good one. I did. And I actually took care of it and kind of reluctantly. Like I was fighting it. Like I didn't want to do it because I didn't want anyone who wants to face their problems. But I tell you what, and we'll talk, I'll probably give a little bit more detail about how that went because there's some interesting things about how rehab works. I've done it twice. I've done two different kind of ones. Similar but different, and I think I got some pretty interesting insight on it because I met some really awesome people there, just people with problems. But I, reluctantly was there, but it was the best decision ever made. And in order to do that, I had to be humbled by being told I'm not going to be around anymore. This is over. I will be looking at you as you're failing because you have this opportunity. And I don't know how everyone else felt, but it's like you have to take those opportunities and they're there. And that's from God, and it was there. And it had presented itself in an odd fashion and not the way I wanted it. But going through it was the best thing I ever did.
Well, and what's really interesting about him making that decision is 2 years earlier, I wasn't going to get transplants. I was just going to ride out life until my kidneys failed, I guess. And go. And Jason and Patty, my mom, were Patty. Actually, I will say this: she's never talked about transplants my whole life, and it wasn't until I got older and my kidneys got worse where it was so I had just made a decision that I was never going to do it. I was just going to ride this roller coaster of life and end it when it ended. Hence, it was Jason who came in and he's like, why wouldn't you? You just want to die, you know? So Jason had played a huge part and then looped my mom in where she was like, oh, yeah, that's a dumb idea not to. Anyway, so they were instrumental in helping me make the decision to go through the dialysis, to go through, to fight for continued life. A blessing from God. These things come up and it's like when you're just not ready. And then as I'm going down that path, meanwhile, he's struggling with his path behind my scenes. And now we're reversed where I'm diabetes free, my kidneys work, I'm healthy. And he's sitting there looking at me saying, I don't really want to go. And it's like, what a role reversal, though. Like an exact role reversal. You stepped in to help me save my life, and I'm trying to do the same for you, which, amen, you made that right decision. But, we both kind of went into both of our situations kind of fighting it.
Well, I think that's everybody. You kind of fight it. Like, nah, yeah, my leg hurts today. Well, if you ask the correct, proper thing to do is probably like take time, rest it, do whatever you got to do, taking care of the pain, or you do try to ignore it and go through it, make it worse. That's the mentality. So it's like everyone kind of fights it and it prolongs it. And
So next time we'll pick it up and then you'll tell the good parts.
yeah, I'll talk about some of the rehab. I might bounce around a little bit because the story will probably jar my memory and come back and forth. But yeah, we'll go to treatment, just kind of how that went in, and then I'll kind of go back and kind of talk about the other one and the comparison. But a lot of really interesting things. There's always going to be a down and up and a down and stuff like that. But for the most part, and for all the right reasons, it hit every mark I needed, and it gave me the tools to the point where it's like after I didn't have to be there for my time that I was scheduled to be there for, which was ended up being 40 some days.
Okay.
But I went back after for the after treatments. Just the meetings and the groups, which a lot of guys did. And that's a volunteer thing. Like you didn't have to go do that. And I did it because I learned that I wanted to be I wanted to quit drinking. I didn't want to drink anymore, and I was still scared, and I'll talk about that. And, she's a great counselor. I learned a lot from that guy in that short a period of time that I did just as much in those one day.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So
Yeah, that it's a hell of a journey that we go on. So let's on that note say a prayer. Let's hold hands because we're both here. Heavenly Father, on this second Sunday of Advent, the theme is peace. And let us say a prayer to all of those who are struggling with their own battles and their own situations that are detrimental to their own well-being, health, mindset, or body. We want them to know that praying to Jesus will help. Jesus is there for us. Mother Mary loves us. And we ask with all our hearts for their blessing, for healing and patience and wisdom and knowledge to see those struggles clearly and give us the fortitude, strength, and courage to make the right decisions to help ourselves and help others.
absolutely, and pay attention to some of those signs sometimes when someone is reaching out or noticing something. If you are not ready for that conversation, know that it's coming from somewhere, right? That might be Jesus coming out and tapping you on the shoulder because a stranger noticed something and calls you on it. So
Yeah.
just be open to it.
Yeah.
All love.
It is all love. And in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Till next time.
Bye bye.